भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामीति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पश्चादिचारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरा भक्तवृंदा। Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha, 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 Jai Radha, Krishna, Radha, Krishna, Radhe, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Granth Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Page 1, dear devotees of yours, Bhagavad Gita for introduction. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrinda Vrindeshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Granthara Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Okay, so today we're starting on verse number 12, chapter 4, page 208 in my book.
Mataji, the introduction in English.
Please do it, Shalina Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who is established within this material world, the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and unto the feet of all Vaishnavas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, along with his elder brother Sanatan Goswami, as well as Raghunatha Dasa and Raghunatha Bhatta, Gopala Bhatta, and Srila Jiva Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, along with Advaita Acharya, Gadadhara, Srivasa, and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna, along with their associates, Sri Lalita and Vishaka. O my dear Krishna, you are the friend of the distressed and the source of creation. You are the master of the gopis and the lover of Radharani. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I offer my respects to Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold and who is the queen of Vrindavan. You are the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, and you are very dear to Lord Krishna. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and they are full of compassion for the fallen souls. I offer my obeisances to Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita, Gadadhara, Srivasa, and all others in the line of devotion. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Shalina Mataji. Okay, so verse number 12, chapter 4, page 208. I'll share my screen. No, we read verse 12, Shalina Mataji. I remember this purport where Prabhupada called these so-called leaders big guns. So it's 13 today, right? 413 on page 209. Right. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chaturvarnyam maya shrishtam gunakarma vibhagashah tasya kartaram api mam vidhi akataram abhyayam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So here, the Lord says, according to the three modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the four divisions of human society are created by me. And although I am the creator of the system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer, being unchangeable. Right? So although the Lord created this material universe, and he also with that created three modes of material nature. Material nature being, three modes being, mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of ignorance. That is Sattvic Gun, Rajasic Gun, and Tamasic Gun. Right? The three gunas, the three modes of material nature. So Krishna may have created it, but he is not part of it. He is aloof. Right? The purport by Srila Prabhupada, the Lord is the creator of everything. Everything is born of him. Everything is sustained by him, and everything after annihilation rests in him. He is therefore the creator of the four divisions of social order, beginning with the intelligent class of men, technically called the Brahmanas, due to their being situated in the mode of goodness. Next is the administrative class, technically called the Kshatriyas, due to their being situated in the mode of passion. The mercantile men, called the Vaishyas, are situated in the mixed modes of passion and ignorance. And the Shudras, or the laborer class, are situated in the ignorant mode of material nature. In spite of his creating the four divisions of human society, Lord Krishna does not belong to any of these divisions, because he is not one of the conditioned souls, a section of whom form human society. So a section of human society being conditioned souls. Krishna is not part of that human society. Human society is similar to any other animal society, but to elevate men from the animal status, the above-mentioned divisions are created by the Lord for the systematic development of Krishna consciousness. So there's your answer if you have the question. Why did Lord create it? This is why. The tendency of a particular man toward work is determined by the modes of material nature, which he has acquired. Such symptoms of life, according to the different modes of material nature, are described in the 18th chapter of this book being Bhagavad Gita. A person in Krishna consciousness, however, is above even the Brahmanas. So let's just pause this purport for a little bit, because very importantly here, Prabhupada is saying to us that the tendency of a particular man towards work is determined by the three modes of material nature. So we can be placed in a particular mode of material nature, being good, either goodness, passion, or ignorance, dependent on our activities. That's what it is. So we are not entirely placed in the mode of goodness, all not entirely in the mode of ignorance, or all not entirely in the mode of passion. It's all dependent on the activities that you do. And then he further goes on to say that a Krishna conscious person, a God conscious person, a Krishna conscious person, however, is even above the Brahmanas. So the four orders that Lord has created, that being the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Shudras, of these four orders, the Brahmanas are classed as the highest class of men because of them being placed in the mode of goodness. If you're all completely placed in the mode of goodness, then you are characterized as a Brahmana. You are said to be or expected to be the leader of society, right? So the Krishna conscious person, because he is devoted to God, he is even above that mode. So in other words, a Krishna conscious person is not governed by the modes of material nature, because even the mode of goodness is binding to this material world. Everybody strives to be in the mode of goodness, and we should strive to be in the mode of goodness. But there's further to go from there. Because when one leaves one's body in the mode of goodness, then what happens? When a person acts in the mode of goodness, what is he accruing? Paramatma Prabhu? What is he accruing when he acts in the mode of goodness? Paramatma Prabhu, are you with us?
Hi, Krishna. Sorry, I stepped out for a while. Sorry about that.
No problem. I said when a person, Prabhupada is talking here about the four orders, social orders, right? The Brahmins, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, and the Shudras, right? He's saying the Brahmanas are the top most class of men because they are placed in the mode of goodness. And he goes further to say that Krishna conscious men are even above this mode of goodness, even above the Brahmanas, which means that a Krishna conscious person is not governed by the modes of material nature, of the three modes, the three gunas. Now, I am saying that it is good to strive to be in the mode of goodness for starters, but there's further to go because that's not the ultimate. It's not the ultimate because the mode of goodness binds us to this material world. Now, how does a mode of goodness bind us to this material world? That's what I'm trying to ask. That's what I am asking.
Mataji,
How would you say? Yes.
For the goodness, we have to get the reactions in goodness, and it's attached to the material world.
Say, Prabhu, I lost you there.
No, I say, Mataji, the goodness we will get that reaction for goodness, and it'll tie us down to the material world.
Yes. So we will get also, everything is karma based, right? So if you do bad deeds, you get bad reaction. If you do good deeds, you get good reaction. So for us to enjoy the fruits of the good results, we have to come back. Isn't it? So therefore we say the mode of goodness is also binding. And also some people in the mode of goodness, they live entirely in the full mode of goodness. They attain the heavenly planets, where the demigods reside. And that heavenly planet is also placed in the material atmosphere. It is not the spiritual world. At the end, when annihilation takes place, that material world is also dissolved. So it's not the ultimate goal, right? Let's go to continue the purport. So Prabhupada continues to say, although Brahmanas by quality are supposed to know about Brahman, Brahman is the Lord, the Supreme Absolute Truth, most of them approach only the impersonal Brahman, manifestation of Lord Krishna. But a man who transcends the limited knowledge of the Brahmana and reaches the knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, becomes a person in Krishna consciousness, or in other words, a Vaishnava. So a Vaishnava is a Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, Krishna conscious devotees, right? So Krishna consciousness includes knowledge of all different plenary portions of Krishna, namely Rama, Nrsimha, Varaha, etc. And as Krishna is transcendental to the system of the 4 divisions of human society, a person in Krishna consciousness is also transcendental to all divisions of human society, whether we consider the divisions of community, nation, or species. Okay, so when we speak of transcend, we say we must transcend even the mode of goodness. And to transcend the mode of goodness, you have to become a Krishna conscious devotee. You have to become a devotee of them, become a Vaishnava. Then only can you transcend. Right. So who's reading the next verse for us? Kadruta Mataji? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namam karmani vispanti, name karma pala spraham, spriha iti mamyo bijanati, karma birna sabayante. There is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me also does not come entangled in the fruitive reactions of words. As there are constitutional laws in the material world stating that the king can do no wrong or that the king is not subject to the state laws. Similarly, the Lord, although he is the creator of the material world, is not affected by the activities of the material world. He creates and remains aloof from the creation, whereas the living entities are entangled in the fruitive results of material activities because of their propensity for lording it over material resources. The proprietor of an establishment is not responsible for the right and wrong activities of the workers, but the workers are themselves responsible. The living entities are engaged in their respective activities of sense gratification, and these activities are not ordained by the Lord. For advancement of sense gratification, the living entities are engaged in the work of this world and they aspire to heavenly happiness after death. The Lord, being full in himself, has no attraction for so-called heavenly happiness, as the heavenly demigods are only his engaged servants. The proprietor never desires the low-grade happiness, such as the workers may desire. He is aloof from the material action and reactions. For example, the rains are not responsible for different types of vegetation that appear on the earth. Also, without such rains, there is no possibility of vegetative growth. Vedic Smriti confirms that this fact as follows. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. See, there's a nice analogy here that Prabhupada is using. He says, as there are constitutional laws in the material world stating that the king can do no wrong, or that the king is not subject to state laws. Similarly, the Lord, although he is the creator of the material world, is not affected by the activities of the material world. So he may set the rules, the regulations, he's done creation, but he is not affected by the activities that go on here. Because he is transcendental. He is supreme. This is a material world. And we are limited. So the Lord is not bound by any modes of material nature. He is transcendental, he's over and above all of this. We, however, jivas, are trapped in this whole big cycle, and we are subject to those rules, regulations, laws, three modes of material nature, karma, and so forth. And also here, importantly, Prabhupada says, the living entities are engaged in their respective activities for sense gratification, which is generally the case, right? And these activities are not ordained by the Lord. For advancement of sense gratification, the living entities are engaged in the work of this world, and they aspire to heavenly happiness after death. So if you aspire for heavenly happiness, you will reach the heavenly planets. But remember, we said many, many times before that heaven is not the ultimate. The spiritual world is over and above the heavenly planets. It's not that you do good, you go to heaven and you live happily ever after for eternity. It's not an eternal abode. It is part of the material world. And when you reach there, when your time has expired, when your good deeds have expired, you will have to come back down to this samsara, the cycle of birth and death. See, in the heavenly planets, when one does good deeds according to scripture, when they enter the kingdom of heaven, they receive this fresh flower garland. It's a very long flower garland that touches the ground. And the flowers are very fresh and fragrant. As the flowers wither, then you know that the time of that heavenly living entity is expiring, it's diminishing. And when the flower garland completely dries, then that personality has to take birth. Of course, from there, the personality can, or that soul, that jiva, can transcend to higher planetary systems. It can get out of this material heavenly planet into the spiritual worlds, the spiritual planets. But it is very, very difficult. And you know why? Because the heavenly planet is so full of opulence. And if a jiva is placed in a mode of goodness, right, and does good deeds in this earthly planet, purely for enjoying happiness on a higher level, then the chances that there are that when he's enjoying the happiness on a higher level, he's going to lose sight of transcending even further, of reaching his destination or his goal, which is to go back home to Godhead. He's going to get caught up in this enjoyment. If people can get caught up here on this earthly planet with the material opulence, how much more would they get bewildered with all of that opulence in the heavenly planet? It's a very difficult place to be in. And devotees of the Lord, Vaishnavas, Krishna's devotees, don't aspire to go to the heavenly planet. They certainly don't, because they know that it's actually a dangerous place to be. You go there, you enjoy, and you can lose sight of your sadhana. And you can actually fall back down into this material. Okay. So, sorry, oh, it does continue. Okay. The pop-up continues here. I'll read it out. In the material creations, the Lord is only supreme cause. The immediate cause is material nature, by which the cosmic manifestation is made visible. The created beings are of many varieties, such as demigods, human beings, and lower animals, and all of them are subject to the reactions of their past good and bad activities. The Lord only gives them the proper facilities for such activities and the regulations of the modes of nature, but he is never responsible for their past and present activities. In the Vedanta Shutra 2.134, it is confirmed, Vaishyamaya Nail Griniye Na Sapekshatavat. The Lord is never partial to any living entity. The living entity is responsible for his own acts. The Lord is only gives him facilities through the agency of material nature, the external energy. So we are put here. Why? Because of our activities. As you do, so shall you reap. So we've done certain activities in our past lives. We'll get certain types of bodies in our next lives. Some have animal bodies, some have aquatic bodies, some have human bodies. In the human species of lives, some have good bodies, some have not such good bodies, some are materially opulent, some are not, some are homeless. Okay, so you get the picture, you know the varieties, right? And these are all due to our past karma. So what Krishna does, because of our desire and our activities, he places us back in this material nature. And this material nature is an agency that facilitates our lifestyle. Right. Anyone who is fully conversant with all the intricacies of the law of karma or fruitive activities does not become affected by the results of his activities. So you must be aware of this law of karma. In other words, the person who understands this transcendental nature of the Lord is an experienced man in Krishna consciousness, and thus he is never subjected to the laws of karma. One who does not know the transcendental nature of the Lord and who thinks that the activities of the Lord are aimed at fruitive results, as are the activities of ordinary living entities, certainly becomes entangled himself in fruitive reactions. But one who knows the supreme truth is liberated soul fixed in Krishna consciousness. So it comes down to the same point, right? You've got to understand and know the Lord's transcendental activities. You've got to know his nature. So it takes us back to reference to verse number 9 in just chapter 4. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veditatvatah kyatva deham punarjanma nekimam iti sorjana. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities. They've got to know the transcendental nature of the Lord's appearance and his activities. And when you know that, what happens, he says, upon leaving the body, such a person, Arjuna, does not take birth in this material world. The Prabhupada is saying it again here in the purport. See? One who knows the supreme truth is liberated soul. But how? Well, such a person has to be fixed in Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness, come to know the Lord's supreme activities and his transcendental nature and his transcendental appearance. We don't identify with the Lord as being an ordinary person who has been born into this world with superpowers, as some people say. 4:15, Veronica Mataji. Veronica Mataji, Hare Krishna, you want to read 4:15?
Yes, Hare Krishna. Wo. Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Evam Shnatva Trikam Karma Pure Api Mumuksudhi Guru Karmere Tasmatvam Purve Purvataram Kitam. All the liberated souls in ancient times acted with this understanding of my transcendental nature. Therefore, you should perform your duty following in their footsteps. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. There are two classes of men. Some of them are full of polluted material things within their heart, and some of them are materially free. Krishna consciousness is equally beneficial for both of these persons. Those who are full of dirty things can take to the line of Krishna consciousness for a gradual cleansing process, following the regulated principles of devotional service. Those who are already cleansed of the impurities may continue to act in the same Krishna conscious so that others may follow their exemplary activities and thereby be benefited. Foolish persons or neophytes in Krishna conscious often want to retire from activities without having knowledge of Krishna consciousness. Arjuna's desire to retire from activities on the battlefield was not approved by the Lord. One need only know how to act. To retire from the activities of Krishna consciousness and to sit aloof, making a show of Krishna consciousness is less important than actually engaging in the field of activities for the sake of Krishna. Arjuna is here advised to act in Krishna consciousness, following in the footsteps of the Lord's previous disciples, such as the sun god, Devishwan, as mentioned herein before. The Supreme Lord knows all his past activities as well as those of persons who acted in Krishna consciousness in the past. Therefore, he recommends the acts of the sun god who learned this art from the Lord some millions of years before. All such students of Lord Krishna are mentioned here as past liberated persons engaged in the discharge of duties allotted by Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Okay, so basically Krishna is recommending here that we should form our duty following the footsteps of who? Of liberated souls. And it's simple, Prabhupada says there's just two classes of men. Some are materially attached and polluted, some are materially free. And he further goes on to say here that those who are already cleansed of impurities may continue to act in the same Krishna consciousness. Why? So that others may follow the exemplary activities and thereby be benefited. So you lead by example. A Krishna conscious person is meant to do his duties and lead by example. Unlike now, how Arjuna, for pastime purposes, Arjuna didn't want to do his duty. He wanted to give up this fighting, give up the battlefield, retire, go into the forest into meditation. He wanted to skip his orders, social orders, from a Kshatri to a Brahmin. And earlier on in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said to Arjuna, better do your duty than somebody else's. Execute your duty, even if not 100% correctly, rather than doing the duty of somebody else's. So you Kshatri remain in your ashram, do your duty. Don't jump to sacrifice and abandon your duty and go and sit as a sannyasi in the forest. Because that's a cowardly thing to do. Right? So if you do your duty in a Krishna conscious manner, it serves as an example for the neophyte to follow. So foolish persons or neophytes in Krishna consciousness want to retire from activities without knowledge of Krishna consciousness. Right? Sometimes newcomers to Krishna consciousness may take it a step further, and they may think that now that I've come to Krishna consciousness, I need not do anything else. I'm just going to sit with my japa beads every day and just chant, 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 which is a very good thing. To chant as many rounds as possible, as much as possible. But it does not mean that you now need to abandon your duty. There's still duties to be done. There's devotees to serve. There's deities to serve. There's temple service to be done. You can engage in your local namahatas, your local temple centers, temples, and engage in service. There's services to be done. And we need to engage in these services to assist in promotion of Krishna consciousness. Because the temple and the namahatas serve as a platform to attract newer people, isn't it? To attract newer devotees. So we need to join forces and help facilitate that platform of promoting Krishna consciousness, because that is a duty as well. Now, Arjuna wanted to retire, we said, but Krishna forbade him to do so. And action in Krishna consciousness is far superior than renunciation. Krishna said that before. To advance in Krishna consciousness and understand the transcendental nature of the Lord. Why? So that others may follow in the same steps. And a nice reference in this instance is chapter 3. Sorry, I got my window open and all these insects are flying in here. Chapter 3, verse 21. So let's just turn to that. Just as a recap. because it's a nice example in relation to this purport. Yes. Krishna says here, Yat yat acharati she shastas tat tat eva tarojanaha sayat paramanam kurute lokas tat anuvartate. Meaning, whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, the world pursues. See, we spoke about the examples, Raja Janak being a very good example, the father of Mother Sita. He ran his kingdom so nicely, but he was not attached to his duty. He continued so that other men would follow. He continued with his duty, but he was totally Krishna conscious, God conscious. Okay. Right, our next verse is verse number 8. Anybody else wants to read the verse? Shalina Mataji, Paramatma Prabhu, anybody else want to read? Most welcome. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sorry, before I proceed with that verse, there's a nice verse I was reading in the Chaitanya Charitamrita the other night, and I flagged it for this class, and particularly for our newcomers, but I see they're not present today. When we spoke about creation and Mahavishnu creating all these material universes, you know, with all those bubbles coming out of his paws, Mahavishnu created innumerable universes throughout the world, and then he entered into each universe, right? So there's a nice verse, and I wanted to read it to you all. It's from, it's from Adi Lila, volume 1. It says here, Mahavishnu Shrishtikarena Jagat Adikaraya Tanravatara Sakshat Advaita Acharya. So Advaita Acharya, we celebrated the appearance of Lord Advaita Acharya recently. He is actually the incarnation of Mahavishnu. So the purport goes on, his translation goes on like this. Mahavishnu performs all the functions for the creation of the universes. Shri Advaita Acharya is his direct incarnation. Ye Purusha Shrishti Sthiti Karena Maya Natta Brahmanda Shrishti Karena Leelaya. That Purusha creates and maintains with his external energy. He creates innumerable universes in his pastimes. So there we have it. Also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said, that Mahavishnu creates innumerable universes. And after that, he enters into each universe. It says here, Ichchaya Nanta Murti Karena Prakar By his will, he manifests himself in unlimited forms, in which he enters each and every universe. Okay? Mahavishnu. Right, that was just a little bit that I wanted to share with you about Mahavishnu entering into each universe. Right, so back to verse number 16. Kim karma kim karmeti kavayopi arthamohitaha tatte karma pravakshyami yajgnatva mokshyase shubhat. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Paramatma Prabhu, you want to read this for us, please? The purport.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Translation.
Okay, thank you. Even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. Now I shall explain to you what action is, knowing which you shall be liberated from all misfortune. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Action in Krishna consciousness has to be executed in accord with the examples of previous bona fide devotees. This is recommended in the 15th verse. Why such action should not be independent will be explained in the text to follow. To act in Krishna consciousness, one has to follow the leadership of authorized persons who are in a line of disciplic succession, as explained in the beginning of this chapter. The system of Krishna consciousness was first narrated to the Sun God. The Sun God explained it to his son Manu. Manu explained it to his son Ikshvaku, and the system is current on this earth from that very remote time. Therefore, one has to follow in the footsteps of previous authorities and the line of disciplic succession. Otherwise, even the most intelligent men will be bewildered regarding the standard actions of Krishna consciousness. For this reason, the Lord decided to instruct Arjuna in Krishna consciousness directly. Because of the direct instructions of the Lord to Arjuna, anyone who follows in the footsteps of Arjuna is certainly not bewildered. It is said that one cannot ascertain the ways of religion simply by imperfect experimental knowledge. Actually, the principles of religion can only be laid down by the Lord himself. Dharmantu Sakshat Bhagavad. Pranitam Bhagavad Gita 6.3.19. No one can manufacture a religious principle by imperfect speculation. One must follow in the footsteps of great authorities like Brahma, Shiva, Narada, Manu, the Kumaras, Kapila, Prahlad, Bhishma, Sukadev Goswami, Yamaraj, Janak, and Bali Maharaj. By mental speculation, one cannot ascertain what is religion or self-realization. Therefore, out of causeless mercy to his devotees, the Lord explains directly to Arjuna what action is and what is inaction is. Only action performed in Krishna consciousness can deliver a person from the entanglement of material existence. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Right. So, action in action, action in inaction, and inaction in action, we touched base on previously very briefly, right? So, action in inaction would mean like you may seem to be busily, heavily involved in activities, but actually you are inactive because what's happening in that process? The person is unattached. The person is merely doing that action for purpose of duty. He is duty bound, and whatever actions he's doing, he offers the results to the Lord. So therefore, that is called action in inaction. Is your mind? In your mind, you're offering everything. Okay. Then you may get another example where a person may seemingly be sitting in a meditative pose for many, many years or months or days or whatever, and does not involve himself in any sort of duty, any sort of activity, but his mind may be wandering all over the place. So such a person is referred to as a person who is inactive, but such a person is said to be, he's in action. So he seems to be inactive, but his mind is very active, and he's not engaged in what he seemingly is engaged in. He's foregoing his duty under the pretense of being inactive, and under the pretense of being in a meditative state for a long number of years. Okay, so therefore Krishna recommends that we do our duties, but offer all the results to him, and that becomes Krishna conscious, and it liberates you from all sorts of attachment. Be liberated from all sorts of misfortune, he says here. Right. And for this reason, I highlighted it here in the purport. The system of Krishna consciousness was first narrated here. It's also said here, Prabhupada warns us yet again that we should follow Krishna consciousness. How? In the line of disciplic succession. The Bhagavad Gita itself came down in that manner to us. And the system here of Krishna consciousness, here it was first narrated how? At the beginning, we read it as well of Bhagavad Gita. It was related to the sun god. And the sun god then explained it to his son. And his son Manu explained it to his son, Ikshvaku. And the system up till now is currently on this earth, but in time it got lost, right? So Krishna came back and explained it to Arjuna for our purpose. And we need to take it in this manner, in disciplic succession, because disciplic succession knowledge in that fashion is coming from authority. Right? Prabhupada wants us not to go on the basis of mental speculation. Because by mental speculation, one cannot ascertain what is religion or self-realization. Because you're speculating your own, you're making up these things. You don't know for certain. It is not authorized. Right? So out of causeless mercy for his devotees, what happened? Krishna came and explained it to Arjuna. What action and inaction is. And only action performed in Krishna consciousness can deliver one from entanglement. No other action. Materially performed activities will bind you to the material world. Krishna conscious activities will detangle you from the material world. That's what it is. Now, interestingly, Prabhupada mentioned here that we should follow the footsteps of great authorities, and he named some of them. We have these great personalities called the Mahajans. There are 12 Mahajans, and they are stated here in scripture. So their names are Brahma, you know Lord Brahma, then Shiva, Narada Muni, Manu, the father of mankind, the Kumaras, the 4 Kumaras, the sons of Brahma, Kapil Dev. Now remember these names from last week? Kapil Dev, all the avatars that he came in the first era being Satyug. Then Bhishma Dev, the grandfather Bhishma in the Mahabharata. Remember this battlefield, this Bhagavad Gita has been spoken on the battlefield. And who is present there? Bhishma Dev himself is present on that battlefield, on the side of the Kauravas, on the side of Duryodhana and Pati. Then Sukadeva Muni from Bhagavatam, Yamaraj. Who is Yamaraj? The god of death. Janaka, we cited Raja Janak earlier on, father of Mother Sita. Bali Maharaj, the king whose kingdom was taken away by the Lord's incarnation, Vamandev. The grandfather, I think, of Prahlad Maharaj. And then Prahlad Maharaj himself, whom we spoke about last week as well. Prahlad Maharaj, the great devotee of the Lord. And Lord Nrsimhadev appeared to save his devotee, Prahlad Maharaj. Right, so these are the 12 Mahajans. We call them the Mahajans. Okay, so we shall stop here and open the chat, stop the recording, and then everybody can give their contributions freely. Confide in confidence if you need to, and we listen in confidence. As Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did say to us, was our 2 of our loving exchanges. Okay, so we'll end